Once the door to spring is flung open, and Favonius's fertilizing breeze, released from imprisonment, is active. The fertilizing breeze, right? This image of creation, bringing to life. Released from imprisonment, right? This idea that like the life-bearing forces are somehow oppressed or kept in bondage. Like there's a freedom of life is what's kind of being touched on now. Is active. First, goddess, the birds of the air, pierce to the heart with your powerful shafts, signal your entry. Right, so like evoking that time of the year, which is so magical, right? The budding of life all around us, in spring, which had been dormant. Next, wild creatures and cattle bound over rich pastures and swim rushing rivers. It's like bucolic imagery. So surely are they all captivated by your charm and eagerly follow your lead. Right? This is this idea that like there's some sort of uniting force in the nature of things. The search for joy. Then you inject seductive love into the heart of every creature that lives in the seas and mountains and river torrents and bird-haunted thickets and verdant plains. Implanting in it the passionate urge to reproduce its kind. The passionate urge to reproduce its kind. Cupide, urge. Like here's Cupid, right? Like this figure of like being pierced and like being like seized by a desire, like love, passionate love. The passionate urge to reproduce in its kind, right? There's like this sort of at the ground level of the nature of things, at the most fundamental level, is this sort of urge to create and sort of that like to just find joy in creation. Okay. So it's a very interesting continuation of the same themes from the first paragraph. Since you, again, Mother Venus, right, and you alone stand at the helm of nature's ship. You and you alone stand at the helm of nature's ship. And since without your sanction, nothing springs up into the shining shores of light. Here's that light imagery again. Nothing blossoms into mature loveliness. It is you whom I desire to be my associate in writing this poem on the nature of things. It's kind of endearing. It's kind of naive. It's kind of sweet, isn't it? Which I am attempting to compose for my friend Memmius. It's like a plea, also, like a plea for help. Through your will, goddess, he is always endowed outstandingly with all fine qualities. So, with all the more justification, Venus, give my words charm that will ensure their immortality. Give my words charm. Let them be reproduced as well. Right, this is the poem, the sort of self-conception of poetry. Right. You hinted at this, Callie, in your comment. This poems as something that bring us pleasure. Okay. Meanwhile, cause the barbarous business of warfare to be lulled to sleep over every land and sea. The barbarous business of warfare. Ah, indeed. Yeah, of course. Sort of, there's the sort of perfect symmetry again, right? Light against darkness, joyful creation against savage destruction, like an epic tale of these sort of combating principles. For you alone have the influence to obtain for mortals the blessings of tranquil peace. Since barbarous war is the province of Mars, mighty in arms, who often stretches himself back upon your lap, vanquished by the never-healing wound of love. It's like it's almost like the image of like the peace movement, the anti-war movement. The image of the protester putting the flower into the barrel of the gun pointed at them. The student in Tiananmen Square standing up against a tank. Throwing back his handsome neck and gazing up at you in open-mouthed wonderment. He feasts his greedy eyes with love, and as he reclines, his breath hangs upon your lips. As he rests upon your holy body, bend, goddess, to enfold him in your arms. And from your lips, worshipful lady, let a stream of sweet, coaxing words flow in an appeal on behalf of the Romans for placid peace. Put an end to the wars. Like an anti-war poem. A patriotic anti-war poem, if such a thing is imaginable. Here it is. Again, it's like the idea that like sweet, coaxing words flow. It's like this. The poem itself kind of is doing that, right? Like the poem is that song by Venus, putting Mars to sleep. He's telling us like how he's conceiving what he's doing. For at this tempestuous time in my country's history, I cannot tackle my task with tranquil mind. We know how important that is. The tranquility of the mind. How desired that is, right? We've been talking about that. And the gravity of the situation is such that the noble descendant of the Memi cannot fail the cause of public security. Right, so there's like a very purposeful conception of the work, of the study, right? Like to put an end to the wars, to bring peace to the land. And that's certainly a very great ambition to have, isn't it? I mean, in a sense, I don't mean great as in just sort of good, but great as in like large, like it's like as in like the reach, is like just is incredible. Okay. I'm just looking at the Latin to see if there's anything here that really needs to be underlined for you all. I think it's okay. Now this next paragraph, you notice how they're in hard brackets? I think that's because there's some debate about sort of whether they're correctly interpolated or not. And the editor is sort of suggesting, read this paragraph, but understand it may not actually have been where it is now originally when Lucretius wrote the poem. So it's kind of like, under construction, For it is inherent in the very nature of the gods that they should enjoy immortal life in perfect peace. We've talked about that on Monday, didn't we? And last week, in fact. Far removed and separated from our world. Free from all distress, free from peril, fully self-sufficient, independent of us. They are not influenced by worthy conduct, nor touched by anger. So we talked about this quite a bit, haven't we? This conception of the gods as untroubled, and somehow something that we'd like to imitate and emulate, and we aspire to. As for what follows, Memmius, lend open ears and an alert mind, released from cares to true philosophy. My gifts have been arranged for you with steadfast zeal. Be sure that you do not contemptuously discard them without having understood them. For I will proceed to explain to you the working of the heaven above and the nature of the gods. And so this is what we should take note of, because he's telling us how he is planning the work. And will unfold the primary elements of things. The primary elements of things. Rerum primoria. That's the atoms, isn't it? From which nature creates, increases, and sustains all things, and into which she again resolves them when they perish. In expounding your philosophy, I often call these elements, in expounding our philosophy, our Epicurean philosophy, right? I often call these elements matter. Or generative particles of things. Matter having the same root, of course, as the word mother. or seeds of things. Semina rerum. Semina, seed. Right. And since they are the ultimate constituents of all things, another term I often use is ultimate particles. Corpora prima. Ultimate particles is corpora prima. So, more accurately, sort of first bodies. Primary bodies. Principal bodies. Fundamental, that's right, I guess you could say. Or ultimate. Bodies. Things. The seeds of things. Right? It's this echo of this concern with the figure of creation, with Venus, with the mother. Okay, the next paragraph is very interesting, I think. It's one of my favorites, actually. It gets really, how do I say, like combative. When all could see that human life lay groveling ignominiously, just horribly, in the dust, crushed beneath the grinding weight of superstition, the darkness, right? Darkness of the mind. Which from the celestial regions displayed its face, lowering over mortals with hideous scowl. Right? The fear of thunderclapping, the fear of certain astronomical phenomena, like an eclipse, a total eclipse in the middle of the day, complete darkness. This happens. Other, sights, as he says, from the celestial regions, right? Things seen in the sky, comets, meteors, sudden apparent changes in the night sky, even the flight of birds, right, could be interpreted. What would happen at a battle? What would happen tomorrow? The reading into this phenomena. The first who ventured to confront it boldly was a Greek. We know who that will be, of course. Epicurus. This man, neither the reputation of the gods, nor the thunderbolts, nor heaven's menacing rumbles could daunt. Fearless, right? This is the hero of this story, in a sense, right? Rather, all the more they roused the ardor of his courage and made him long to be the first to burst the bolts and bars of nature's gates. Right? This is echoing that passage in the first line of the second paragraph we saw, right? The fertilizing breeze released from imprisonment, right? Like liberation. and so his mind's might and vigor prevailed. And on he marched far beyond the blazing battlements of the world, in thought and understanding, journeying all through the measureless universe. And from this expedition he returns to us in triumph with its spoils. Knowledge of what can arise and what cannot. And again,
Am I too early? Are you in the middle of the class now?
that's it. No worry. Knowledge of what can arise and what cannot. Sort of what comes from what. That's this theme of creation, right? What can create what? The causal story of nature. And again, by what law? Each thing has its scope restricted and its deeply implanted boundary stone. Now, this is a very interesting line. And you see here the editor draws us to attention how this metaphor of the boundary stone comes up again and again. The boundary stone. So now the situation is reversed. Superstition is flung down and trampled underfoot. We are raised to heaven by victory. Now, I would want to note, and this is going to raise a lot of questions actually, that the term superstition here, the translation, which is contentious in the original Latin, is just religio, which is also translated as religion. So we have to be very careful because the translator has perhaps good reasons that we'd have to look into, however, for putting the word superstition in place of what would be a more obvious choice for a sort of at least uninformed, just if you're reading the text, choice of terms, and that would be the one that's closest to it, you might think, in cognate, not in meaning, at least in a metalogical level, and that is religion. So why, and this is a question we had actually, why, how, when can we distinguish between religion and superstition? And it's not an easy question. So we have to think about that. Well, actually, I'm very happy we read this because you can see there's a lot there. And that theme of defeating superstition continues on the next paragraph.